everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. And this is the show where we're looking at Sex in the City. And we are on season 3, episodes 13, 14, 15. Today, so we're almost done season 3. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. There's a lot of interesting Sex in the City and just like that stuff in the ether now. An article about Che that came out, and then another one about the feud between Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. So I'm deep in it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And if you want to find that Che article, at least make sure you're following City Girls Pod on Twitter, because I make sure to try to share anything like that going on in the world of Sex in the City over there. And we definitely have to say that this is a mature podcast for a mature show. So if that's not your jam, don't listen to this one, especially this one. I mean, we're going to the Playboy Mansion and things like that. So don't.
There are so many other things on the Hallmarkies pod feed that you can listen to if you're looking for G-rated stuff, and it's all good.
That's right.
It's not this one.
Well, I'm certainly proud of it all. So it's not your jam. Don't worry about it. So these episodes, we do get our girls out of New York, which is always a fun kind of dynamic to see them in different situations, settings.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of this in TV shows. Like I remember when it would be like Family Matters or Full House. Like they go to Disney or they go somewhere away and it's like a very special episode. I always think it's fun to get out of the comfort zone that the show exists in.
I agree. So basically this first episode is called Escape from New York, and they go to Los Angeles because a production company is wanting to option off Carrie's column. And I feel like this is kind of similar to He's Just Into You getting basically optioned and made into a movie. It's kind of the same idea.
Yeah, 100%. And this one was a lot of fun to see the celebrity sightings in this one. Celebrities who are playing themselves and not playing themselves in this series of LA episodes. It felt very LA. Yeah,
it did. And we also have Charlotte coming home from her honeymoon. And I have to wonder, what was Trey expecting? Was he really so naive that he thinks this is not going to be problem? It seems like he just thought, oh, well, we love each other, so it's not going to be a problem at all, that he's basically impotent.
Yeah, and I find what is most troubling in all of this is not the actual mechanics of what is or what is not going on, but the way he reacts to it and that he can't talk about it. Also, like, just because you're impotent doesn't mean that you can't kiss and do a plethora of other things, but I don't even really see them being terribly affectionate. Yes, a little bit of kissing and like holding and stuff, but not really. He's not really being there for her physically in a way that isn't even necessarily sexual.
Yeah. And it seems like he doesn't even like her, which I don't know. Why did he get married to her?
It really seems like she like checks that box for him of what a perfect wife is. But it's so troubling.
Yeah, it seems like, how did he possibly expect this was going to be a functional marriage if he wasn't willing to talk about things? And then we see in the next episode that it's not even that he's not actually impotent in like a technical medical way. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess he just thought that his like porn addiction basically was going to be kept hidden. And I don't know. He was just a very weird character.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it gets into this later with Trey. I can't remember, or if it's just something that that I've read about that a lot of men have. I shouldn't say a lot of men have, that some men have, and maybe women, but I've heard it more with men, where it's like, that's something in their brain that once they they love someone and they view them as their wife, then they have a hard time viewing them as like in a sexual sense. But then also, then again, that is something to work on in therapy, which he doesn't excited about going to.
Well, yeah, and he seems to be completely oblivious to the fact that this would be a problem, even, and that he acts like Charlotte should just be fine with all of this, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. They get really good at golf, though, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, to go on your honeymoon and to never consummate your relationship, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, and like it's the fact that it doesn't seem also like they've even gotten close.
Yeah.
There's no like hanky panky like foreplay. Like it's like they are just golfing, and I don't know, like, you know, it just doesn't even seem like there's any romance.
Yeah.
Let
I
alone
mean,
like sexual stuff.
you could have it get an annulment at this point
Yeah.
because there hasn't been any you know, they haven't consummated the relationship, so
Yeah.
you could get an annulment, not even a divorce, if she wanted. And you would have a valid case for basically claiming deceit as an annulment.
Yeah. And especially in this case where it's like Trey absolutely was not forthcoming about any of this. In fact, like he acted like Charlotte was the one who was like setting the tone for not doing it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they get to LA, our three of our girls, and Samantha meets a very interesting model. And he was kind of annoying, actually. I didn't really like it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was annoying and not terribly attractive. And then when we actually saw what he was working with in terms of the size of his package, I can't imagine that would not be anything other than excruciatingly painful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and supposedly Samantha has already rejected somebody for being too big. So I would think that this would not work. I did think it was a little funny when he's like starts spouting poetry. She's like, what?
He just wants to be seen for more than a wee.
Right. I can move to New York. I can pursue my passions.
Date Samantha, and she's like, let's pump the brakes on that. No, thank you.
Right. And so Carrie is like the worst driver. I mean, I know that driving stick is hard, but like usually the hard part about driving stick is getting started. Once you're going, it's actually pretty easy, you know, because it's the changing the gears that's a little bit hard. I mean, she was like, what was happening? I mean, the car was like jerking back and forth. I'm like, and why did she rent this car? Why didn't she get an automatic if she can't drive stick?
It's like she willingly entered into this knowing that she wouldn't know how to drive it, and then put herself, her friends, and frankly anyone on the road at risk.
Right. Well, and not only is it a stick shift, but it's also like a vintage stick shift, which are harder to get into gear. So you're making things extra difficult. It was like a Mustang or something, like an old car. And so I'm just like, why did did Matthew McConaughey get her that car? Or I don't know what she was thinking with that. I'm like, you are a terrible driver.
She's bad. And I texted this to you. I don't drive, but that's because I know that I'd be like Carrie. So I don't put myself or anyone else at risk. I've never had a license because I know that I would be Carrie, but Carrie's just out there shuffling along. I love how Sam gets out of the car.
He's like, this is ridiculous. I got a date with a model.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then Miranda meets a guy named Jason Dickue, which was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah. And the Carrie meets the most ambitious and feared creature in all of LA, the junior development executive. That was funny.
is so cute in this role.
Yeah.
I love her work, and I met her once. I used to work at it's a kids play class type thing in New York called My Gym. And she came in with her kids. This was when I first moved to New York, like 10 years ago. And I was freaking out and fangirling, but like quietly. And she was the nicest person. So, I'm like, oh, she's a good one. And she's still married to Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Years.
Yeah. I was thinking about it so they end up in just like that. Che is going off to LA for their sitcom. And I could see bringing Sarah Michelle Gellar back. Wouldn't that be fun?
Rachel, as you were saying it, no lie, I literally got like a little chill because that would be fun and it would make us feel like there's some more connectivity that I think we're actually kind of missing. And it's just like that.
Yeah, I don't know if Sarah Michelle is acting these days, but if they could convince her to come out of retirement just for a little run, I think it would be very fun to see her back interacting with Miranda and with Che. I think it would be good. I'd enjoy it.
I love that. And I love the whole junior development exec grown up. What's going on with her? Yeah.
So then Matthew McConaughey wants to be involved. And if we remember, like 2000s was when Matthew McConaughey wasn't like the Oscar-winning actor that we know today. He was more the being in movies like what's it called? The one he's in with Sarah Jessica Parker. Failure
to Launch.
Oh, I hate that movie so much.
I've never seen it.
It's so bad. I hate it. Most of his movies, most of the rom-coms he did with like Kate Hudson and people like were terrible. And I was saying that I really feel like 2005 to 2010, really the 2000s hurt romantic comedies a lot. There were so many bad ones and such a streak of bad ones that were kind of mean-spirited and annoying. And I really think that the kind of fallout for that is why we didn't have hardly any romantic comedies for the next 12 years. For the 2010s, there were almost none in that whole decade. And we're just this year, it's so exciting because I feel like we're finally getting, some romantic comedies being made and, and shows as well. But there was just that stretch. I was talking about it with, we were doing a 2010 ranking over Talking Disney, my friend Stanford and I, and they had When in Rome and You Again, which were both just, in my opinion, terrible romantic comedies. And there was just that stretch where a lot of them were just unpleasant, not romantic, not great.
I think that's a really good point, and actually like an excellent think piece, and also like such a cultural entertainment shift that because of a streak of, and I like that you pointed this out, Rachel, not romantic and mean-spirited quote unquote rom-coms. And that is not what it basically like warped the idea of what the genre is and was supposed to be.
Yeah. So I'm glad that Matthew McConaughey moved away from the from the terrible rom-com. I kind of be interested now to kind of come back maybe and do something just to see where what he could do with it now, where we're at. But I just, like I said, Failure to Launch. It is, I wonder if they're working on this show, it was part of the reason why they ended up doing that, but it's just not for me. I don't enjoy that movie. And let's see, I'm trying to see look at his filmography, what he was making. So 2001, he would do The Wedding Planner, which is fun enough. And then How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was 2003. So those were two good ones, particularly How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And then it was more after that, like I said, 2005 to like 2012 is the real Fool's Gold, Failure to Launch. let's see here. Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, which is terrible. I hate that. I know there was just a bunch of really bad ones.
You know, you're right though, as far as like he managed to escape that then. And I do think that the scene he has with Carrie in this episode is hilarious. I think she's really funny in it too. And also the fact that he identifies with Big and is like, you know, what about Carrie? Carrie's so wrong. She's like,
Yes.
I'm Carrie.
He says, I'm Mr. Big. And what the F is Carrie's problem? And so I guess, I mean, she has literally been saying everything in her column that's been happening in her personal life, evidently.
It's wild. Like I think what we don't always realize, and they don't tell us everything in the show. It's like, we know the column that she's writing that week and the question of the episode and, you know, with the voiceovers telling us, but there's so much other stuff that she writes that it's like, oh, she really does spill it all.
Because I don't think, as far as her like the big column question of the day, I can't think of a single one that actually says Mr. Big in specifics, but evidently the actual column itself, she's talking about him in specifics. Yeah. And you know, she asks, the big question of this episode is, can you ever escape your past? And so then we have the she says, I'm exhausted from McConaughey mania.
He does have a lot of energy. I mean, there's a lot coming at you. And I say this as someone who I know I can have sometimes energy that's a little too much for some people, but whoa, he's intense.
Yeah. I let me say, LA is open. Hi, I have sex. In New York, sex is so bottom shelf, paper bag, it's all hidden.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was good. And so Miranda starts to kind of admire these women that she sees as kind of, what's the good word? Very open with their sexuality and very open with their wardrobe. And I think it's kind of interesting when we first see them in LA, you have Samantha in this kind of blue pantsuit thing.
Yes.
And then you have Carrie in this sort of ruffly flower kind of look. And then Miranda is in basically a little black dress.
Yeah.
Looks very formal.
And very New York.
Yeah. And I think that shows a lot of kind of their three personalities. Someone who's more rigid, someone who's more fly by the seat of her pants, kind of with Carrie kind of being the in between of the three.
Yes.
You know, and I thought that was interesting.
I found the way that they spoke about some of these women and the way they dressed, and then saying, like, assuming that they were prostitutes. The conversation made me feel strange in that I don't know. I just don't like when women talk about other women in a demeaning way, whether or not they are sex workers or not, or assuming that they're sex workers, or I don't know. I just, I'm having a hard time being articulate about it, but it makes me feel sick.
Yeah. Like, on one hand, I like the fact that she admired them for their boldness, I guess, in her eyes. But yeah, the going to that extra level of assuming they're prostitutes because of how they dress is a little much.
Yeah, although it makes for a really funny moment where she asks that woman if she's a prostitute, and she's like, I'm a lawyer for Disney.
Yeah, that was good. I wrote that down. Yeah. So Carrie can't sleep. She's struggling. And so she talks to Charlotte and gives her the tip of the of testing of how to test Trey. And so she does it with stamps. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's just a confusing character. I don't feel like anybody would really behave the way that he behaves. It doesn't really feel like an authentic character, that somebody that's seems like a stable adult in all other ways would be so oblivious. Like, why did he get married? I just don't understand.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It feels a little bit, and we don't really delve into much about Trey and his life. He does sort of seem like this, like you said, like a stock character or a stereotype.
Yeah.
Although it is really funny when she puts the stamps on his package. It's just a cute little thing. And it's one of those things from Sex and the City that you remember as being a thing.
Yeah.
Like when at the line when Carrie says, I laugh so hard at this, Rachel. She tells her what to do, and then she goes, I sound like a perverted Nancy Drew.
Right.
I laugh so hard. It's like, you do, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. So then they go to the cowboy bar and they ride the mechanical bull. And it was kind of funny to me because they acted like this was like wild. Like, what else do you do in a country bar? I mean, I don't know. I don't go to bars, but isn't that kind of par for the course?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I've never ridden a mechanical bull, but I actually probably wouldn't because I think I'd get hurt. But I don't even think it's necessarily like you're not doing anything like particularly wild on it.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I mean, they're from New York, and I don't think that they've seen many more shocking things than a mechanical bull, but she does take it to the next level.
Yeah. So Carrie decides to not go to the meeting. He says, if I could master the stick shift, I could master a successful relationship. And I think master is probably strong.
Yeah, let's be fair.
For what she's doing.
There's no mastering of the stick shift going on here.
Yeah. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
Oh, Rachel, that's tricky. I really enjoyed these series of episodes. I thought it was fun to get a little break from New York. And I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, and it was fun to see Matthew McConaughey. So I'm actually going to go with an 8. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, that's what I was going to say. I think it's a very solid episode. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
In New York for episode 14, and this is called Sex and Another City. And we learn about LA, the land of the perpetual bikini wax. Holy cow.
This was really funny because I feel like this was another one of those episodes that really worked its way into the zeitgeist of people talking about it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That would be so painful.
And it was a surprise for her.
It kind of reminded me of, I think it's Jerry Seinfeld, that has a whole comedy bit where he says, I'll never understand women about how you can take boiling hot wax, rub it on your upper thigh, rip the hair out by the root, and still be afraid of a spider. That sounds
I like that. Who said Jerry Seinfeld?
I think it was Jerry Seinfeld.
That's funny.
So be afraid of a spider. So Miranda meets up with Letterman Lou, and Lou is just living his best life in LA. And he starts out, you think he's living his best life. He's lost weight. He's happy. He's at peace. He's going to yoga, whatever. He's one of
Cute.
he's one of the happy people now. Yeah, I thought he was pretty cute.
I thought he was very cute. Like I was I don't want to say surprisingly into him, but I just thought he was so adorable. And I was like, I wonder if he's Rachel's type because I just thought he was really cute.
Yeah, Sam Cedar is his name. He's still cute. Oh my gosh, I'm
Really?
looking. He's still working. He's on Bob's Burgers. He's I guess voice actor. Yeah,
That's really
look at him.
cool.
Way to go. Yeah, it looks like almost everything he's done lately are all voice acting. So, yay, that makes me like him even more.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, yeah, I saw him and I thought, I think this might be one that would tickle Rachel's fancy.
Yeah, there we go. And it looks like he's even done some directing. It doesn't look like anything I know, but yeah, he's still working, busy. But yeah, he's seemingly loving LA, but then we find out later that he has lots of problems. Like he's going to the steakhouse, taking pieces of the steak and then spitting it out, which is crazy.
He's got like a full-blown like eating disorder that he's doing that. And like, I think it was interesting. I've known a couple people who have made the move from New York to LA, and some people it really agrees with. And then other people, they're like, I love it. And you're like, do you? And I think that that's what's interesting about Lou. It's like Miranda is so excited to like meet another New Yorker and to see someone who she thinks is going to be like this cynical. And he's really tried to acclimate to LA life. And I love the way they're like suggesting without saying it that he's like a writer for Friends.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, and it's surprising too, because right around this time is when Adkins and South Beach and all of that were the big thing. So I would think that he could eat steak just fine. Yeah. It would be the potato that would probably be more the problem in this era. But yeah, if you can't eat any food and you're spitting it out, that's bad.
Yeah, especially if it's gone so far that you're doing it in front of other people. Yeah, you know what I mean? Right. Like, not that, and you know, eating disorders are so complicated to talk about. And, you know, I've been lucky that I've never had one, but I've known, you know, people that have, and usually with it, there's like so much shame and trying to hide it, but he's like at this dinner just being like, this is me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then we also have Samantha meeting Hugh Hefner, which is like the most exciting moment of her life.
I actually was tickled at this whole plot line. And, you know, when he says the line of just like, oh, you know, hanging out with 3 blondes, it's a regular day for you. And he's like, a slow one. Yeah. I actually just thought he was so charming. And I don't know what it is. It's probably because when I was little, my family, who's, I would say, fairly conservative and all very Catholic, but my aunt, for some reason, had a pinball machine with Hugh Hefner and like his Playboy bunnies there. I'm telling you, like, she is so religious, Rachel. And like, it was hilarious. So being like probably 8 or 9, I would like look at this pinball machine and I had an affinity for like Hugh Hefner.
That's
and
hilarious.
Like, yeah, it was so random.
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, I feel like most women have that sort of side of them that you need, like you have those buttons that need to be pressed. And sometimes I guess a pinball machine is going to do it. So props to your aunt. But we also meet Keith, who is Vince Vaughn, and he is claiming to be an agent. and he meets with Carrie and Carrie, he says, you're too pretty to be a writer, which for all my writer friends, I'm very offended.
It I've had the opposite twice. I've had this happen where I've gone to work events with Alex, and twice people have thought that I was a writer, I guess because I was like asking a lot of questions, and I was like I felt so good about myself. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you think I'm a writer? I was like, so I just thought that this whole interaction,
Yeah.
I rolled my eyes, but I also thought what felt to me like a compliment in New York, like in LA, it's like there's so many, like, I don't want to say LA is superficial, but there's some superficial aspects to LA.
Mhm.
So I thought that was an interesting comment.
Yeah. Well, and then when we meet Carrie Fisher, oh, that was the best. It was so good. I mean, it just made me miss her so much. She's so great. And it was interesting, especially because, you know, right now they have young Leia on the Obi-Wan show. So she's just been kind of fresh on the mind. And to see her in this episode was just great. She was so funny and wonderful. And then when Carrie says the life I was coveting was Carrie Fisher's, which don't we all?
I mean, come on, let's be real. And she had, oh my gosh, how much were you cringing, Rachel, when Carrie's like, you're Carrie, I'm Carrie. I write, you write. It's like, oh girl, shut up. But it was charming on both ends. I thought Sarah Jessica Parker was great in that scene. And Carrie Fisher, the way she played it was, she's just like, not even mad. She's just like, I don't have time for whatever this is.
Yeah, exactly. And I do not like doing photo ops at Comic-Cons. I just think they're stressful. You literally get like thrust in there. You get like 30 seconds with the person you're smiling, and I don't know, it's just a weird thing. But Carrie is one I did it for. I love her so much.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I got my picture with Carrie Fisher. What's that?
That's completely worth it because she's like mega star.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh.
And she had her dog there at the shoot, which was kind of funny. And I find it to be a stressful experience, but I've only done it with the actual photo ops. I've done it with her, and I've done it with Jodie Benson, who's the voice of Little Mermaid, with Ariel, who I love, and that movie was my childhood. So yes, that was really great. That was worth it to me for those two. And then there's what I prefer is more at the cons doing more the selfies, and it's usually more like lower tier people.
Yeah.
And it's usually way less expensive too, and it's just a more pleasant experience. So I like that way better. I actually got my picture with Ralph Macchio before the whole everything. What's that show called that he's in now? Cobra Kai. Before that all happened, I got my selfie with Ralph Macchio.
Okay, talking about like love maps and when you're a kid and like what forms your experiences. Looking at him and then the song of like, I am a man who will fight for your honor. I was like, oh my gosh, was he like sexy in person?
Well, I mean, he's one of those actors who it seems like he stays the same age no matter what. He looked exactly the same. Okay. But yeah, he was great. He was super nice, very friendly. He had just done Dancing with the Stars year. So I'd seen him on that. And anyway, Carrie was just, she's a legend. She was the best.
She really was. There's nobody like, I don't know. She's just one of those people that when she passed, like so many, I don't know. I think she just really touched her fans.
Yeah. And a lot of people that don't realize how good of a writer she was. I mean, that's the one thing I did like about that moment, was that the focus was on her writing as opposed to her acting. Yeah. Which of course she's brilliant. But her writing. She was a script doctor. She fixed a ton of movies. She would go in and not only that, but writing her own scripts like Postcards from the Edge and things like that. So it was great. We also have Charlotte deciding to come to LA, and she says LA agrees with me. I'm supremely unhappy in New York. And I thought that it might be fun to kind of talk about, what do you feel as a New Yorker, the stereotype of the angry New Yorker? Do you feel like it's earned?
Ooh, good question.
Because you're one of the least angry people that I know. You're so positive, kind, sweet.
What I will say is that there have been a few times in New York where I know I've been that stereotype. Because I think something about New York is that it really pushes you to live intensely. But what I want to say to sort of like caveat that is that there's been numerous times in New York that I've seen something happen on the street. Like one time I saw someone having a seizure, and I witnessed a car accident, and then another time, another accident. And people in New York come together in a way that I just think is so incredible and like touching. It's like, everyone's like, how can I help? What can I do? And people like spring into action. I think that the stereotype of the angry New Yorker is in some ways true and earned, because people are just living like their emotions are like right on the surface. But I generally think people here are really nice.
Yeah, I've had great experience anytime I've been to New York. The only time I guess I felt sort of the angry New York kind of spirit. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, so maybe that's part of it. But is if you're being slow and people need to move. People like, get out of my way. What are you doing? Why are you standing here in the middle of the sidewalk? Like, there'll be times when I'm kind of looking for directions and figuring out where to go, and people are like, go, move over. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. That's kind of where I feel it most, I think.
That's a really good point, because I am someone who can be a tiny bit oblivious, and I've definitely been like, shoot out of the way. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, I'm just whatever. So, and I'm a daydreamer too. So yeah, I can relate to that. Do you, when someone says something to you, do you like clap back, or are you just like, okay?
No, I just move over. I'm a little bit shy that way. I wouldn't want a confrontation, certainly with a stranger. So yeah, I would just move out of the way.
That's what's difficult about like I know my personality, I can let a conflict go if it's with me, but there's been a few times where I've seen someone else, like twice in New York, I've seen a man yell at a woman, and I can't keep my mouth shut. Like, I scream at the guy. Yeah. And I like, one time it happened, I was with Alex, and he was like, I love that you want to do that. He's like, but you could really get hurt. And I was like, I don't care. But I think I probably need to know when I'm not helping. And I don't think I was helping this woman or myself in this case.
Yeah. Well, they say, Carrie says that in New York, a first date is dinner and a movie. In LA, it's lunch and seeing a $3.4 million house.
That was funny. It's a nice house.
Yeah, really nice. And then Miranda says, maybe it's time I stopped being so angry, which is weird because, again, going to end just like that, they decided to make her like kind of mousy, and I don't know, they just changed her character so much. She's apologizing for bringing her partner cookies. Like,
yeah, what? It's still, I'm really hoping that we see a turnaround in the second season of Men Just Like That, of Miranda like coming into her own again, because I understand that people can change and we like to see people evolve, but it almost feels like it is not the core essence of who she is.
Yeah. And so then we have Samantha getting the fake Fendi, and I feel a little bit like they have these people all over New York. I don't understand why this is like, what? Fake, purses? I've never heard of this. They're everywhere. What?
So I thought the exact same thing, Rachel. Like even before I moved to New York, I knew that like that was a thing in New York of like you get like your fake bag on Canal Street and whatever. I didn't know it was a thing in LA. I mean, I could have assumed it was, but I didn't get that at all.
If anything, it's more common. I've been to LA and I've been to New York fairly recently, and there's more fake purses in fact, if you watched House of Gucci, there's a whole part of that movie where the Lady Gaga character realizes that they're making all these fake Gucci's and she gets very upset. They're destroying a brand and all this stuff. Gucci. Did I tell you that I got evacuated with 20 minutes left of that movie from the theater? Yeah. Some stupid teen had like, there was some kind of fire in the kitchen area, some kind of whatever that made them have to evacuate the whole movie theater. Yeah, but so we missed all of the juicy stuff. The 20 minutes in there. It was so weird. We're sitting there watching and they're like, please exit the theater. Please.
Wait, you didn't get to go back and finish it, or how did it work?
No, I finally watched it because I got a screener DVD for being a critic. I got it, so then I watched the ending. Anyway, it was funny. It's like, okay. But yeah, obviously in that movie she's concerned because all these fakes dilute the brand and the value of the brand. And so that's one thing that Carrie asks is it good to have this fake Fendi? And then somebody steals Charlotte's fake Fendi at the Playboy Mansion. And the only thing it was interesting to see Charlotte in this new environment, this different environment. But I feel like this guy would not like offer to give her a boob job. And like on day one of meeting, I mean, I don't know. That seemed a little much.
Especially, I mean, it's just expensive too. Yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, like I think that a comment about her, have you ever thought about getting your boobs done or something, would have been way more realistic than him offering. It's like, okay, I don't know how much a boob job is, but I think it's some bucks.
Yeah, I would think so. And so then she accuses somebody else of stealing her fake Fendi. It turns out it was real. And it says inside it was all real, and all the rest of me would grow back eventually, is what Carrie says. So yeah, I think this one's pretty funny, pretty good. I think I would also give it an 8.
Yeah, I think it's just fun too. All between Carrie Fisher and Vince Vaughn, and like even Hugh Hefner, like just all of them. This whole LA vibe was a lot of fun, and that Charlotte got to join them, I really enjoyed too.
Yeah,
we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Episode is called Hot Child in the City. And this is kind of more of our real New Yorkers discussion that we've been having. Because Samantha takes over the PR work for Jenny Breyer, who is this teenage, basically like the My Super 16 kind of teenager, who's very, very spoiled. And But she basically behaves like an adult. She seems like she knows what she wants. And but then we also have Carrie dating Wade, who is the comic shop owner. And he draws her as a superhero, but he is living with his mother. So that's kind of to see. You also have that comparison with Trey, because Trey is also very kind of dependent on his mother. It's an interesting discussion how kind of dependent we should be, how independent we should be as adults. And I think particularly when people see that with men, that they, like the whole mama's boy kind of a thing, it can be a bit of a turnoff for people. And I don't know if it should be or not, but I think it is. That's a thing.
Well, I think it's a very interesting dynamic of, I feel like in America, we sort of, like you're saying, look down on people who live with their parents. But I think a lot of times it is a very nice thing if you are living in a multi-generational home. I think the problem is that with some of these dudes, or like with the comic book guy who I was totally smitten with at the start, it's like he's not there to like provide, additional love and support for his mom, or like helping around the house, or just being like another member of the family. It's like he's acting like a teenage boy and kind of like not respecting what they want in their house, which is a huge eye roll for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that a lot of people that also changed their mind on things like this because of the pandemic, because people were moving back home. I knew a ton of people who moved back home who were living alone, but because they could all of a sudden now work from home, they moved back in with their families. And it was even something that I thought about a little bit, not me actually moving, but I thought about, that would be nice to have other people when you can't see other people, to live, to not be living alone. Has its appeal.
Oh, 100%. And like, I think that, like you said, so many people did that, and it shifted the way we think about things. And like my brother lives with my mom, and my parents are divorced, but he sees my dad every week. He helps out with all their stuff around the houses. Like, I don't know. I just think that I don't like the judgment surrounding it, but I'm more than okay to judge specific actions and behaviors. And in this case, I don't feel like he was respecting his mom a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So we also have the this whole thing with Jenny, and he says, when you're a teenager, all you want to do is buy beer, and when you're an adult, all you want to do is get carded, which I thought was an interesting point. That and that is definitely not the beer part of it, but when I didn't like being a kid very much. I felt like I wasn't taken seriously, and I wanted people to pay attention to me and what my thoughts were. And I remember one time at church, I gave a talk on, I think it was David and Goliath. I gave a talk, and I had researched it, and I had put a lot of time and work into the talk, because we don't have paid clergy in my church, and so people are from the congregation are just asked to give talks anyway. And so I did, and I was just so annoyed because there were so many people who were like, I can't believe you did that, or I can't, you gave this talk, and that I guess I got a little bit, it was kind of felt like a backhanded compliment of like, that people expect so little from our teenagers, that why couldn't I research and write a compelling talk, why do you assume that I'm gonna just screw it up like that was kind of, I remember being annoyed by that, and like, of course I did it.
And I love that, because it's this thing of what I'm sure they meant as a compliment, and was a compliment, revealed how they think about teenagers in general, and that you were the exception to that rule, rather than, oh, that was amazing, we knew you do a great job. But you know what I mean? It's very telling.
Well, and I think that's also why a lot of these depictions of teenagers just run false to me, because they usually are really one note and not like the dynamic people that they are, that there's just the sort of these sullen, grumpy, kind of thing that, like, I don't know, I just feel like a teenager is basically a mini adult. So most behaviors that you expect from adults, you get with teenagers, but just with less training. They're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that is a really compassionate and honest way to look at that. And you think about it too, that which we didn't have the language for then, or I didn't realize, but as you're going through puberty, like there are literally hormones coursing through your body that make it difficult to be in your own skin. And I think actually most teenagers that I know when I was a teenager, and even teenagers that I've either like babysat for or like taught acting to, they handle it with a lot of grace.
Mm-hmm. When I loved at the end when Samantha says you should enjoy being children, and that maybe the Dairy Queen, working at the Dairy Queen wasn't so bad. That was a nice moment, I thought.
Rachel, I don't know what was up with me, but I cried at that moment because seeing Samantha, I think we talked about a little bit when we were chatting with Megan too, about Charlotte's wedding, how they don't reveal a lot about the girl's past, and that's by design. And while I think that's very effective, having a little glimpse into Samantha's past and knowing that she wasn't necessarily like this extremely precocious teenager, she actually was a kid, I thought was really sweet and heartwarming.
Yeah, I agree. So Miranda decides to get braces in this episode, and then she is kind of, it's enough of a problem that she gets rid of them, because she also sees somebody with the expensive braces. The woman's like, those are old school vintage
Braces.
I have thought from time to time, because I have a little crowding in my bottom teeth there, and I've thought from time to time, oh, maybe I should eventually get braces, but it just seems like I've got enough going against me in the dating world. I don't need to have braces.
Well, first of all, by the way, with this is what I've heard. I have crooked bottom teeth too. And I've heard, and this could be like a old wives' tale, probably is, but if you have crooked bottom teeth, then that means you're a good kisser.
Ooh.
I'm just saying.
I can't open a Starburst with that's supposedly what I always heard, is that if you can open a Starburst,
yes,
take the wrapper off with your tongue, then yes, I absolutely can.
Oh, I can't. Oh my gosh, Rachel. I think you have lots of good things going for you in the dating department, and I'm learning more of them as we go.
You can tell all your friends. Like I said, I'll have dinner. I'll have a meal with anybody.
Rachel will have a meal with anybody, and she can open a Starburst with her tongue. That's all you need to know.
So we do get more with Charlotte and Trey. We find out that he basically, in my opinion, is a porn addict. I mean, it is stopping him from being able to participate in his life effectively. And I think he needs to seek treatment. Honestly, I think it's stopping him from being. He says, "Oh, I'm just not a sexual person," but then we find out that he is. It's just with porn, and so he needs to get help.
Yeah, I think it's so troubling to see him, and to see this unfolding in this way, because everyone has different views on porn, but some people really enjoy it and they use it as a means to either enhance their relationship, or if they're not in a relationship. But when it is coming, like in between you and having a sex life with your partner that is mutually satisfying for the two of you. I mean, it's just, it feels so wrong because he's wanting to keep that part of himself so separate from Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when it becomes a problem. If it's becoming something that is keeping you from being an active participant in your life, then you need help at a certain point. And that it seems like he's not willing to sort of acknowledge that, or even try to see where Charlotte would be coming from. I mean, how can he possibly think that this wouldn't be a problem? I mean, of course it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, even when the therapist is like, well, what kind of porn was it? Oh, good. Now we know he's not gay. I was like, I'm not
I
sure
didn't like that.
Celebrating any, like, it's also fine if he is gay. Like, I just sort of was like, I think you need a new therapist. I think we need to put the porn on the back burner for at least a little while. Like, we need to get you sorted.
Yeah, I agree. What did you think of all of the scenes with Carrie and Wade smoking pot? That was pretty funny.
Oh, Rachel, I loved them. I thought it was so cute to see a very teenage, like girly, almost sweet side of Carrie. Like when she's like, "Thank you, Mrs. Adams. I'll stay for dinner, Mrs. Adams."
Yeah.
And then with the fried chicken, Rachel, I was beside myself.
Why'd they have so much of it?
So much.
There were like 3 buckets at least.
It was like beyond the level of like, the munchies of like, it's like, no, they had so much fried chicken. If they ate that much fried chicken, you'd be vomiting. Like there was so much.
Right. And I don't know, does pot give you the munchies? I've never known that.
Like apparently yes, but like I don't think like 3 buckets of chicken worth of munchies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think like that level. But when he heard his mom coming home and she's like
throwing chicken across the balcony, that was very funny.
I was like, this is peak Sarah Jessica Parker being like the wonderful, quirky, comedic actress, because I'm gonna be honest, Rachel. We came off of some really bad Carrie episodes, and I needed to really like her again. And these episodes made me, not that we see her, sure, as a flawed human being, but I didn't dislike that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So this ended up being a pretty fun episode as well. And it was cute when she's like getting very excited about records and sticks, and then she likes cheesy glam rock. We know that now.
Yes, we do.
So yeah, I think would give this one an 8. I feel like all 3 of these were 8s.
Yeah, this was a really solid, fun group of episodes. I can see now why both you and Megan were saying about the last episode, how it felt like it's a season finale, but this felt like it almost did push the restart button. It was like, oh, we're starting with something new. And I think we really needed that. I did not need any more big drama. I just needed getting back to basics with my girls.
Yeah. I mean, watching these in order like this, because usually I would have watched them out of order. And it's made me realize just how much I don't like Big that much. I don't really like his character. I think he's rude. I think he's inconsiderate. They have pretty good chemistry. I think she honestly has the best chemistry with Big over Aiden or anybody else. She has the best chemistry with him, but that can only get you so far. You still have to be a nice person.
I agree. Especially how you said, I've never watched them in order either. And I think that even when it just like that was starting, it's sort of like an all's well that ends well thing with Big, in the way that, like, I mean, we'll get into it when we get to that season, but him sort of coming to her rescue at the end, and like being, there is sort of this romantic thing of like, it was always Big. And he does get a little bit better as it goes on, I think. But honestly, like I'm the same as you. I realizing how much I dislike Big and actually how much I liked Aiden, not necessarily for Carrie, but he's a really good guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, these have been fun. Let us know if you're listening, what you think of these 3 episodes. Are you team New York or team LA? We want to hear in the comments or on Twitter. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following us at City Girls Pod on Twitter, and make sure you're following the Hallmarkies Podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. 5 stars. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store. And you can get City Girls Pod merch. And so check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.